Hi friend, it's Pat Sloan here with my daily video. And this is the 15th of the month, which means it is Aurifil Designer Interview Day, where we have a great interview with a fabulous designer or designers, as the day is today. And they created a blog and I interviewed them, and all that happens over on the Aurifil blog. And then I've been sewing along and making the blocks as well to do another version of the fabric so you get a feel for something different. So first let's talk about our designer duo. So it's fabulous to have a partnership as our designer for the month. That happens a few times since I've been running this, and it is Shannon and Jason Mullet-Bowlesby, and they are better known as the Sheba Guys. The two of them have been designing for many years. They are award-winning knit and crochet designers, as well as sewing and quilting. So they do lots of teaching. Many of you, particularly if you're on the West Coast, have probably seen them at the shows and taken classes with them. They are very dynamic, they're very detailed and super creative. From everything from the photography to the layout to the content, they are just an amazing duo. Now, they have the name Sheba Guys, which I think they'll tell you a little bit more about. It has something to do with the dogs in their family, so super cute, super cute. Now, I don't have their block yet because it is in the mail on the way to me, but I will show you my block, and then I'm going to tell you about the process to make it because it's super fun and you're going to have a really great time. So this is my version of their block, and this month we are celebrating the Italian city of Carrara, and that is where they have the beautiful marble that you see so often. And the picture we have posted for the color builder box is some of the mines where the marble comes from. So think white, gray, black marble. Yes. Now their block is very much in, when you click over to that, you're going to see here, I'll put a little picture here. Theirs is the colors of the marble, and this is the Carrara box that we have for the color builders to wrap up. This is December, so it is the last block that we have for this sew along. So let's take a look at how to make it. So I'm going to show you how to make an improv unit for the block done by the Sheba Guys for Aurifil. It is a super cool block. Doing improvisational piecing is very, very fun, and you can use tiny little pieces for their block, and I can just imagine an entire quilt like this. But if you just do the one block, you can make it into a pillow or a little trivet. I mean, it's a fun way to try it, and this is a very forgiving method that they use. So first let's take a look. I will show you my block then at the end. So I'm using my Morrison Park here in shades of blue and cream for the sort of the spacer between it. So let's first get this figured out. So you have the spacer unit, and then what they did is they took three units, but you could put in more for their pattern if you follow it. And if you've never done this before, I would go with 3, but then you could make another one like this. You could switch out like that. I mean, you could just play around. If you had 5 fabrics, you could make a bunch of different, ways to do the block. So these are the 3 that I picked to work with. And you cut the units like they give you in the pattern. And there is one, I call it the background square, and then there are 3 strips. One strip's a little thinner than the other 2. And this thinner strip can go in the middle sometimes, it can go in the end sometimes. I just did this sample with it first. Now the part that is interesting and how you get it into this sort of improvisational fun way of doing things, you're making an oversized block and then you're cutting it down, is that they're angling this strip on top of that background. So they have it angled like this instead of, let's get it more in the, whoops, go this way. So they have it angled instead of putting it straight, matching the lines up like you would for regular patchwork. Instead, they've angled it, and because it's oversized, you're going to trim it down, and so it is going to work perfectly. So you would do the seam along here. And I have these little step outs here. So here is what the seam looks like you know, you can see the background over there. Then what you would do would be to trim that off. And I would take a, get the rotary cutter. You could do it also with a ruler, but I'll just trim it off there. So I'm going to trim that off because you don't want a lot of extra seam allowance behind there. So when you press it open, here is what you have. You know, you have the angled one, then you press it open. Now from here, you will be adding strips. So I will want to add on, and then I go the opposite direction. So this is the way for the second one. And I will sew it onto this unit so that I have, here it is. So when I push it open, you can see that now it's angled. This has a smaller base at the bottom and it's wider at the top, and depending on how much you angle this guy is how much you will see at the bottom. See there, I can kind of, you know, totally eliminate that point. Let me get there. Like I can just eliminate this, and those are super cool little ways to work. So after you have the second piece put on, here we go, then we will want to put the third one. And you could angle it the same way, you could angle it a different way, you know, you just don't want to go straight. Angle it, and I will have then the final piece. And this is what would be trimmed down to the size in their pattern. But there's something fun that you can do at this point. Let me pull you back here a little bit. Because you can see in mine that I have actually inserted a little bit of red so that I have a little extra fun sparkles in here. There's another red up here and up here. So if you've gotten this block and you think, oh, I would like to have it with a little bit more pizzazz, then what you can do, you can either cut freehand or use your ruler, but you could go ahead and just cut like this and separate. So now I can go and I could insert another piece of fabric. I could insert another piece of one of the fabrics that I'm working with. You know, maybe you want to get something that looks like that, and that would be very cool. One thing you have to remember is don't trim this outer part until you do those inserts, because this will take up 1/4 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. That means a 1/2 inch will disappear when you do another insert. So that is one way. See, there's a fun way. You can just sort of play around with how it looks. Now you can see that's bending. So once you sew it, you know, you're going to have to trim it then within that, you know, straightness. So you have to get a straight block again. So sometimes when you start doing this, you end up with maybe a little bit more waste of, you know, things like this, these little strips and things. But that's kind of the fun, because a lot of times you're working with scraps anyways. So this is just a fabulous block to celebrate Carrara, Italy, and the marble that comes out of there. I love their block. Let's take a look at all of the blocks again from the designers, except for theirs, because theirs isn't mailed to me yet. It's on its way. So we'll take a look. So I just love doing improvisational work like that. I thought they were super clever to take the marble and sort of make all of those blocks to mimic it. That is super cool. The one thing I want to note, so that you see, and I'm going to point it out here, one more thing to point out is they alternate the background. On my block, this is the background. So my background's first, 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 and then I flip it. It's second, second, second. Then first, 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 second, second, second. And that's how you sort of get this, looks like the marble in the quarries. So now let's take a look at the blocks from all the designers. And I have a setting coming. It'll probably be in January, because I will want to set the entire quilt before I give you the setting, and I'll show it to you. But I have to tell you, I love it. It is, I think you're going to really like it. It's different, and I think that that's sort of fitting for the Aurifil, is to have something very creative, because these designers have just knocked it out of the park. Look at how exciting their blocks are all together. I can't wait to show you the layout, and that will be in maybe in a month. I would say like the middle of January. That's what I'm shooting for. That's my goal. Remember my goals? Yeah, got those goals. So if you can get the Carrara box and prior boxes, I'll come with 3 spools with the regular 3 regular size spools versus the little spools. Now next year, the color builder boxes, if you really love this concept or sort of missed out on it this year and you thought, oh, that's a great idea, they're doing endangered species next year, working with a group that supports endangered species, and so they partnered with them, and each of the boxes will feature an animal and have the colors that coordinate. And so they're really a lovely way to build your thread collection, you know, because we should do that. You really, really should do that. So on my, the Jelly Roll quilt, the Ripple Jelly Roll quilt, I have got in my rolling assistant here, I've got all of these. I think I have 14 or something blocks to do. So they're all to this point, which means I have just 2 more sides. This one and then this one. So I will be working on that over the next few days, because then I'm going to start sewing the top together so that I can get that Jelly Roll quilt done and off my shelf. No, this is fun. I love it. I don't want to say done already, like I'm having fun with it. So another thing I forgot to show you is my little jar of threads, empty spools, is quite overflowing now. I want to go through this. This might be cheating, but I don't care. I'm going to go through my threads and see if there are some spools that are like almost empty, and then I'm going to wind them off on some bobbins or use them up for piecing and see if I can get 1 or 2 more, 2 or 3, 5 more spools done. Then I'll count them. I don't even know how many are in here. I have not counted them. So I do tend to trade off spools, and I use the regular size ones. So that's, you know, they take a little longer because Aurifil has more thread on their spools than other manufacturers. So they're a fabulous, you know, investment. They're fabulous to have because they give you more thread. We all need more thread. Now I'm going to answer one question. I have had a couple different, a lot of different questions that came into my question and answer post over on the Facebook group, and I thought this is a good one we can end with here today. Is let's see who asked me. Nancy asked, what size of the design boards do I like to use? So it's an excellent question. There, I didn't write down how many sizes there are. There might be 4 sizes, and I use 3 of them. This is the small one, which I don't use as often. It's a 7x7, and I use this design board size for like catching threads mostly, or if I have something very small I'm trying to organize and keep parts of it, keep track of parts of it, and I want to just sort of move those off. I don't want them on the big thing, like I might be having a more complex block and there's a unit in it. I can make the smaller unit on here and just set it aside while I'm working on the other part. Then I like the 17-inch, no, I'm sorry, the 14-inch. This is 14. So if you're working like on a 9 to 12-inch block, you have a little bit of room, you know, because the shapes overlap, so you know you don't have them falling off. And then the size that so I use this one quite a bit. You see this one quite a bit. I put it on my book stand. And then the other size I use a lot is the 18-inch. So because I can really spread it out, I can put all the pieces on here, and then as I'm sewing units, I can put the units on here. So it gives me a much bigger work surface. And then I can stack these. You know, so if I wanted to, I could stack a bunch of them if I needed to get them out of the way. So, okay, my friend. All the links are below. If those of you are on an iPad, it's a little more tricky. You have to look around for some drop-down things on how to get to the links. When there's something like today, you can just go to my post. And I'm trying to remember to put the post as the first comment, which is pinned to the top. So if you can get to the comments section, you people on those Apple products, Apple just has a weird way of doing things. So contact Apple support to help you figure out how to see the data that they're rolled up into Neverland that you can't get to anymore. Okay, I love you. I'll see you online.